So next week we're going to be getting another live 2-hour special on the WWE Network showcasing the best there is of NXT. We're going to be getting 3 title matches, a hair versus hair match, and another match which I'll go on to later. And tonight's edition of NXT was the go-home show to NXT Takeover 2. You're going to get a bit of a hybrid here, really. I'm going to review the show, which just in general I thought really wasn't all that great, but I'm really more going to focus on previewing NXT Takeover 2 and how this show, not necessarily entertained me, but how I felt this show did a good job, or a bad job in some cases, of building up 3 of the bigger matches on NXT Takeover 2. If you have any comments on this show or NXT Takeover, please let me know down in the comment section below. It seemed like this week NXT were really only focused on promoting their 3 main title matches, and the 2 matches that weren't promoted on here, which will be on NXT Takeover 2, were Bull Dempsey and Mojo Rawley. They're having a match, and I must admit, I wasn't really too fussed that they didn't get a segment. But I thought that Enzo Amore versus Sylvester Lefort in a hair versus hair match deserved some kind of segment, purely because this match presents us with something a little bit different from what we're used to seeing on NXT, which is, great wrestling. It's going to be a stipulation which is going to present us, like I said, with something different. I'm not really wanting to watch this for the match necessarily, but I want to watch it for the stipulation. I want to watch it for the hair versus hair. I want to see if this gives me a memorable moment from the pay-per-view. Despite the somewhat rushed build-up, in my opinion, this could still be a standout moment, and a moment which really does make NXT TakeOver 2 stand out in a lot of people's memories. So it was a little bit of a shame that this match didn't get some kind of a segment to hype it up, because I really do feel it could add some viewer value to this NXT TakeOver 2 special they're doing. But they wanted to promote their 3 main title matches, which I guess are the 3 main drawing points of this show. So I can't blame them too much for that, even though I felt time could have been budgeted much, much better on this go-home show with the way they promoted the main event. To open up this week's edition of NXT, we had the NXT Women's Champion Charlotte defeating Alexa Bliss very quickly in a squash match. And really, it was more about the promo afterwards more than anything else. You had Bayley coming out to cut a promo, like I said, telling Charlotte that she will have to take her seriously at NXT TakeOver 2. And Bayley ends up knocking her out the ring and holding the belt up high. So we get a nice little tease of Bayley potentially being the champion. And I think they did need to make Bayley look kind of strong here, because not many people, I guess, would buy her as a legitimate threat to a Charlotte just because of her character. But at least they did a little bit something here that shows, she can get the better of Charlotte. I think Charlotte versus Bayley at NXT TakeOver 2 will be a good match. It will be nowhere near as good as Natalya versus Charlotte at NXT TakeOver. It will be a good match, no doubt. I just wish it had a bit more story going into it. Like, I really felt it could have had. This match, like I said, it's going to be a good match, but it could have been so much more, in my opinion. It could have been one of those, like, semi-main event matches you get at a pay-per-view or a special show, kind of like Natalya, versus Charlotte did with the family lineage and how they promoted that. I really felt they could have had a little bit more story to this, and it could have felt like such a bigger match. But nonetheless, this is a good match for the pay-per-view rather than what I felt it could have been, which it could have been a great match for the pay-per-view. We will see. I must admit, I really wasn't a massive fan of the way they promoted the main event for NXT TakeOver 2 on this show. Firstly, it wasn't in the main event, so it's not the last thing we see. It's not promoting the biggest match, the last thing we see on the show, but more on that later. I didn't mind the sit-down interviews they had with the 4 people in the NXT Championship match. They each gave their reasons exactly why they feel they should be champion, or why they feel they should win. Tyler Breeze says he should be champion because he's better looking and gets the job done in the ring. Pretty standard. Tyson Kidd pretty much bigs himself up, as he does. Zayn wants to get the win, but wants to beat the man, Adrian Neville. And Adrian Neville likes to take risks, and he likes the challenge. And Adrian Neville was by far the worst promo out of the 4. That's all I'll say about that. So I didn't mind these little sit-down interviews, as it was a little bit something different. It's a different way to present. What I didn't like, though, was the whole, squash match thing. They had 4 squash matches involving each 4 members of the match. We had Tyler Breeze defeating Ty Dillinger very quickly. Tyson Kidd defeating Adam Rose in about 5 or so minutes. Sami Zayn defeating Marcus Luis, of all people, very quickly. And Adrian Neville defeating CJ Parker very quickly. And like I said, I just felt that time could have been budgeted very much elsewhere on this show to promote maybe Enzo Amore versus Sylvester Lefort. And, when there's 5 squash matches on a show. The show just drags, and the show just doesn't really flow very well, in my opinion. I wish they would have done something. I mean, even if they just gave them extended interviews each and just left it like that, I would have been fine with that. But as for the four-way match for the NXT Championship at Takeover 2 involving Tyler Breeze, Tyson Kidd, Sami Zayn, and your NXT Champion, Adrian Neville, even though I felt they took their time to announce this, which really was a little bit stupid in my opinion, I still think this could be a good match between four very good athletes. I think Adrian Neville will come out and get the win, only simply because I can't see Breeze winning, I can't see Tyson Kidd winning, and I think Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville is a match they're going to promote for another show, maybe the next NXT special show they're going to do down the line. So it should be a very good match between four good athletes and four very worthy athletes contending for the NXT Championship. I guess my only problem with it is, like, all four of them are kind of the same. They're all kind of small, you know, 200 pounds, and, you know, it's like, I'm looking at them thinking, where are the heavyweights? You know, where is the variety? You know, I harked on about ROH for all the small people being in the main event, and they're all being the damn same size and the same style, etc. Well, look what we've got here on NXT, people. We've pretty much got an ROH main event in which I guess the Smarks will be satisfied. You know, maybe myself included in that category because they're going to be getting a great match. But there's not really too much variation there for a casual viewer. You know, maybe put a heavyweight in there, or, you know, just not too much variation in this match, as they're pretty much going to wrestle the same style. And, you know, I guess if there was one thing I was going to pick up on about this, that would be it. Especially if on the WWE Network, you're going to try and pander to casual viewers in some way or form. It just seems to be a little bit of a theme in NXT right now, and I really don't want to see NXT become like an ROH wrestling show. I really don't, because, I'll face it, I didn't like ROH. And to be honest with you, I haven't really enjoyed Adrian Neville's reign as champion either. I think it's been very uneventful, very boring, and I would like them to get the belt off him as soon as possible. But I would like it to be to Sami Zayn in a singles match, which is why I'm okay with him keeping the belt here and going another 2 months and then potentially dropping the belt. Because, yeah, Adrian Neville's title run has been quite boring. I mean, the only good thing about Neville is we got some good matches out of him at each of the special events they've had. The one with Bo Dallas was okay. Tyson Kidd was good. And this one should be very good as well. But Adrian Neville as champion, you know, is this really supposed to be the moniker of, you know, everything good in NXT? The guy can't cut a promo to save his life. He doesn't really have much of a personality. Doesn't really have too much of a character either. He's just good in the ring. If you keep putting that message out, you know, to people out there, this is our champion, this is what we promote, then it's not sending a very good message, in my opinion. I know I may have sounded a little bit negative about this, but I have my doubts about Adrian Neville, and this match should at least be pretty good and a very worthy way to end NXT TakeOver 2. But note just how it's not the thing I'm talking about last. One of the members of the Vaudevillains there, showing you how to lose your best friend. The main event on this week's edition of NXT, and I was very glad it was the main event, even though it sort of disappointed me a little bit, was the tag team tournament final between the Vaudevillains and the Luchas, as this was probably this was definitely by far the most important match on the show, so it definitely deserved the main event slot. So I'm very glad this was the main event and it wasn't one of the 5 squash matches we got on this damn show. But I must admit, you know, this match was okay, but it was made to feel worse by the fact that the show kind of dragged before that and didn't really flow very well. So I was kind of just thinking, this match is just kind of there. You know, we didn't really get enough time. It got about 6 minutes or so, which is nowhere near enough time if this is going to be the final of a tag team tournament that you spent building up for a number of weeks now. It's just not good enough, in my opinion. And I had a very strong feeling that the Luchas would win this because they have just been booked like gods in this tag team tournament so far. They really have. And, you know, and I say fair enough in the way that NXT have done this tournament, but just like I said at the beginning of the tournament, whoever wins this tournament, no matter how well you build them up, it still doesn't make me believe any more than I did before that the Ascension could believably lose after the pedestal they've been put on for the last, you know, year or whatever. they've been for the NXT Tag Team Champions. So, in my opinion, this tournament could end up being a slight waste of time, because I just see no way how the Luchas could beat the Ascension, excuse me. Saying that, though, NXT may just have the Luchas go out there and beat the Ascension, and then have the Ascension move on to the main roster. You know, I don't know. But all I'm saying is, it's not the Luchas getting an upset victory. It would be me saying, bullshit, you know, the Luchas are nowhere near the level of the Ascension. This would never happen. That's kind of how it's feeling for me. But, on the plus side, at least the Luchas give something different to the Ascension, and they have been built up quite well as, you know, somewhat credible opponents for the Ascension. Problem is, at the last Takeover event we had, it was a very rushed Tag Team Championship match, and we had Kalisto and we had El Local, as we know as Ricardo Rodriguez, and that match was horrible. It just had no build-up, and I didn't care about it. At least with Sin Cara in there and Kalisto as a unit, at least I kind of care about this match, and they've at least gone out of their way with this tournament to actually build up some challenges, even though I really felt that the Ascension should have just dropped the Tag Team Championships, moved on to the main roster by this point in time, as they've got nothing else to achieve, and this tournament should have just been to determine the new NXT Tag Team Championships, and you would have had a tournament final match between the Vaudevillains and the Luchas at the NXT Takeover 2 event, kind of like you had Natalya and, you know, you had Natalya and Charlotte in the final at the last NXT Takeover event. But things don't pan out as you think they do. NXT Takeover 2, on the whole, should be pretty decent. I mean, you've got a guaranteed main event which should deliver. I'm hoping that Charlotte and Bayley delivers in a way. The Ascension versus Lucha should be an okay match. And like I said, Enzo Amore and the hair versus hair stipulation should present us a little bit something different on the show, which should give us some kind of momentous thing we can remember from the show, which isn't a wrestling match, for example. So on paper, NXT TakeOver 2, it looks decent. I'm not sure it'll eclipse NXT TakeOver, the first one, or even the first event they did, which was, what was it, NXT Arrival. So I don't think it'll eclipse any of those two shows or anything, but it should hopefully be a good, solid show. But I'm hoping it may be a little bit more. Depends on how good the wrestling is on the show generally, as that is, you know, generally on special events like this, what you want to see. You want to see good wrestling. So even though I don't think some of the match could have been built up a little bit better, I'm still excited for this, as, you know, generally when it comes to NXT, I'm excited about pretty much anything related to NXT. But I've talked long enough about this, you know, about NXT and NXT TakeOver 2. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on this show and going into NXT TakeOver 2. Like I said, comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this review. I will see you next Thursday for the NXT TakeOver 2 review on the British Fish channel. Same time, same place. Thank you very much for watching, people. Goodbye.